All right, welcome everybody to the September 21st, 2021 work session. It's 5:30. I'd like to call this work session to order. Can I get a
So moved, Chairman.
motion? Have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. All right. Joint comprehensive plan. Greg, we're gonna turn it over to y'all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm joined here this evening by Caitlin Mee, also from Middle Georgia Regional Commission. And he was not able to join us. He already had another meeting scheduled, but Mr. Dean Nelson from our staff will also be working with Jones County on your comprehensive planning process. So we are very excited to be here, and I'll turn it over to Caitlin to get started and talk about what comprehensive planning is.
So I don't know how many of you are new to comp planning like me, but your comprehensive plan needs to be updated every 5 years per the regulations for the state, but it's a guide that helps guide development in the county and also the city of Gray joint. It allows governments to keep their qualified local government status, so it's extra points for CDBG, GFA water and sewer, and One Georgia, lots of different grant opportunities, land water conservation funds. Y'all are probably familiar with a lot of these. It helps to identify various planning topics. Am I taking your part? I don't know. I might be taking your part. Am I? Yeah, I am. Okay.
Tell us about some.
Let me tell you about some of the topics. We're going to talk about transportation, cultural, natural resources, also historic resources, broadband, community facilities, things like police, fire, water, sewer. Will engage with the community and identify stakeholders. Greg will get into that and just kind of test the waters and see what can be improved, what needs to be focused on moving forward in the next 5 years. Greg will probably tell you about the rest of it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's a great overview of what the comprehensive plan is and all of the topics that are out there. And as you all know, Jones County is a plan first community, now going into, I think, your seventh or eighth year of that designation, which really is a testament to just your long track record of success with successful planning and plan implementation. So we are incredibly excited to work with y'all on this process. So if we move on to the next page there, we'll talk about the timeline a little bit. And you'll see we're sitting here in September of 2021 right now, and we are introducing you to the planning process right now. So the other thing you'll note in September of this year is focusing on starting to identify key stakeholders. And that's the other main thing that we want to get started on this month, and we're going to be looking to you for assistance with, is figuring out who to talk to so that we can get the ball rolling. As we look towards the next month, we want to focus on making sure that we can have opportunities for broader public engagement. That has to include a public hearing at a minimum under the state planning rules. But one thing we've also been doing in most of our communities is an online survey that we can distribute to residents, get their general opinions and feelings about things going on in Jones County and the city of Gray. So if that's something that y'all like, we would be more than happy to do that and would look forward to that as part of the planning process. And we look to start figuring out what those high-level goals are, see if they're still in alignment with your 2017 plan, and see what areas may need to be updated, changed, revised. Then as we go on past the highest level, where we're talking the most big and broad about what you want to be doing, then we'll start gradually working on to a more narrow level. So if your goal is for Jones County to be the best community in the entire state of Georgia, well, we might need to be more specific because you're already meeting that one. But if you have one like that, then we're going to start asking questions. Well, what does that mean? What does that look like? How are you going to get there? What are the things you need to do or you need to address to help get there? So that becomes a sort of first round of stakeholder in-depth engagement that we want to focus on. Then we're going to get another level deeper and say, okay, well, if we decide that we want to talk about blight, for example, what are the actual specific action items that the Jones County Board of Commissioners wants to take to address blight? What is that going to look like in terms of an investment of time, resources, staff, personnel, etc., over the 5-year period that we're looking at, so that you can get that to-do list, if you will, that helps make sure that you've got that those projects thought through, identified, ready to roll for the future. As after we go through that really deep dive, that's where we get to then pull it back out a little bit more broadly, make sure that we can publicize that, get feedback on the plan, look for any last thoughts, edits, changes, adjustments. We go into intensive writing mode based off of all the things you've told us to make sure that we can get it into a nice, fancy, pretty looking document, but one that is also clear, usable, and isn't just going to sit on a shelf. That's the hope with that. So that then sometime around early part of next spring, we'll be able to wrap up with a final public hearing. At that point, we'll need to send the plan off to the Department of Community Affairs. They'll review it and give a thumbs up to move forward and then move towards adoption, knowing that our hard deadline for that is June 30th of next year. But hopefully we won't be pushing it all the way up to June 30th. So that's our timeline. And if we just go to the last slide that we have here, we want to talk briefly about what the next steps are. And so first off, we want to identify a good space and location in the community for hosting the meetings. We were actually in Gray last night, and we did the same overview with the mayor and council over there. For example, they suggested the community room at the high school as a facility that might be a good spot to host meetings. If y'all have any thoughts, we're happy to hear those too. Then, as I mentioned earlier, make sure that we can identify a core group of stakeholders. We definitely want that to include representatives from the commission. Doesn't necessarily have to be every single person, but we at least want y'all involved in the process and regularly attending meetings. We know it's going to include folks like Jason and Shannon. We'll probably also include some of your department heads, development authority, but then also should include some of your very active citizens, especially those who are particularly engaged. We want to make sure we can reach everybody, which is why we're going to focus on the survey, and then lastly we'll look for your assistance with that broader public engagement, helping us post things on Facebook or on your social media, on your website, to try and drive that engagement with residents. But we want to make sure that we have some of the folks who are most interested and engaged. We want to make sure that they have the opportunity to show up at all of these meetings of our stakeholders as well too. So that's really is the overview of what we're hoping to accomplish here. We're very excited to get the comprehensive planning process started for Jones County and the city of Gray. So at this point, I think what we'll do is just see what questions you have, or do you have any initial thoughts, things that we should be considering or preparing to get ready for as we look towards our first step, which will be a kickoff public hearing at which we will launch that community survey.
Mr. Martin, you got a question or comment?
Well, off the top of my head, I remember the last time we went through this process, and it's been a while. And I'd like to see, kind of what we talked about then, and our progress towards completing some of those, and really look at what we thought was important, and then as a community, and try and fit those two together to really move projects forward. Because a lot of times we have some great and grand ideas, but if the community doesn't get behind it, it doesn't go anywhere. And vice versa. If they have great ideas and we don't really get it, we might miss the boat. So I like to see that kind of to help us pitch forward.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's definitely something we will include in the overall process.
Phone, you have anything?
I look forward to the process here.
I know the county last 5 years, I remember when we did this 5 years ago, and I'm like Commissioner Martin, just interested to see what we talked about 5 years ago and what actually happened. And obviously, the county has changed since then. Tim, say you want to say something?
Yes, sir. In years past, last three comp plans, the plan group was an integral part of developing the comprehensive plan. Had a ton of citizens engagement, and that is one of the large drivers of why we got the Plan First designation from DCA. If we don't have that kind of public involvement this time around, if we just do the 2 minimum meetings that are required, we're probably not going to get that designation again. So it's just something to keep in the back of our minds as we're moving forward. I don't know the status of that organization, but that was really a big part of the comp plan at that time.
Thank you, Tim.
Does plans still need, they used to have the conferences that we would go to every year, and I haven't heard of that in a long time.
No, we haven't met for a long time. I mean, even the last 5 years when this came up, it was.
So we used to have a huge group that would go down to McRae, was it in McRae?
Yeah, the people that formed that and were the nucleus of that, we've all gotten old. And nobody has stepped up to, keep it going. So.
Mr. Wood, any comment?
I don't have anything. I'm just looking forward to the process and seeing how we can improve the community.
Mr. Kitchen?
No, I agree. Ready for the process again. I agree with you and Commissioner Martin as well, that I'd like to make sure, see that what we said we wanted to do, we're still on that same path, because sometimes I think long-term commitments make sure that every 5 years you stay on those long-term commitments, or you determine early if those aren't the right commitments, and don't stay on a 15-year process for no reason, but make sure that we're getting there. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it, too.
I'm just thinking off the top of my head, I know we've got several things to add to this now in the past 5 years, so that's going to be, great to do that, too.
I'm happy that Tim is still around and remembers as well as Debbie. We may need to reactivate, resuscitate plan for the obvious reasons of the comprehensive plan, but more so for getting this new group of citizens engaged. Some of us are going to retire at some point and move into that next group, and we need to prepare that next generation. So I don't know who, where, but maybe we need to start advertising.
Was Pam, who used to be at the chamber, she sort of spearheaded,
Well, she did for a while, but it started with Sandra McKinney. I mean, it started with.
but could that be something we could speak with the chamber about as far as trying to set back up? Then maybe if they would agree to spearhead.
Well, you could certainly contact Amy and see what she said.
I just know the chamber before was
It was.
pretty actively involved.
We definitely appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, we're looking forward to it, and I'll add, I think that the plan group, I heard someone say they're getting older. I think they're just getting more experienced at planning.
I hadn't noticed anybody getting older.
Yeah, I think it's just
can't
gaining
tell
an
if they're
experience
all.
and wisdom. So,
My first term as commissioner I had here. Look at me now. All right, so, yeah.
We just cut it off. You had a wide up there a couple months ago.
All right.
We do appreciate it always.
well, we're excited for it, and if you have any questions or need anything, you know where to find us.
Thank you.
So,
Appreciate you.
great.
All right. Anything else on the work session? Motion to adjourn the work session for a break before we open up for open.
I make a motion that we adjourn work session.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, aye? Aye. I gotta do everything but make the motion and vote too.
Well, some of us are still processing. I was thinking of a youth plan group as you were, getting ready